At 2 a.m. on October 15, 2025, inside a dim Ukrainian coordination room, the boards flare red. 40 tracks. Their signatures stack and howl. Russian officers read decapitation when they see that pattern. A major barks, "Spin every Pantsir! Bring Krasukha 4 to full power!" The hall vibrates with sirens and boots. This feels like the big push. They think Kiev just emptied the magazine. From the borderlands, 25 FPV birds skim hedges toward Moscow at treetop height. 15 peel for Kaliningrad. Each decoy squawks a profile that echoes a HIMARS ripple. On scopes, it looks biblical. Console glass blooms with streaks. Doors slam. Generators rumble. The Kremlin braces for impact. Mistake. The 40 drone glare is bait. While top batteries waste gold on foam, the real play slips south. Quiet frames hug rivers and roads. Links jump. Beacons stay dark. A relay whispers targets through pencil-thin beams. 4 refineries sit on the list. Hydrotreater banks. Distillation columns. Hydrogen lines under pressure, fragile, hot, essential. At 0344, the first strike element splits over the Volga bend. Wind nags the safety nets. A seam opens. Motors surge. The night tilts toward fire. Ukraine names the method the Phantom Relay, not because it moves fastest, but because it vanishes at will. The opening feint toward Moscow is the drum roll. The real section moves like a rumor in fog. Each airframe carries an independent brain. Each brain speaks little and never twice on the same channel. Jammers chase echoes and eat static. Operators chase ghosts and waste time. Think trick play. Defense piles left. The throw goes right. At 0344, 4 attack drones ghost away from cover over the river corridor. No chatter. No heroics. A straight vector to the first prize, the hydrotreater. A maze of pipe and towers that strips sulfur from diesel. High pressure. Hydrogen everywhere. Hot steel that runs the rest of the plant. Hurt it and you do not scorch a room. You choke an artery. Russia recovers from surprise. A Pantsir sight wakes like a struck match. Radar scrubs the sky. Electro-optics swing. New hardware hangs between cranes. A sagging curtain of anti-drone mesh. Ugly. Heavy. On paper. Decisive. 4 low flyers against steel and ready interceptors looks like simple arithmetic. Arithmetic is what Ukraine breaks. 4 escorts that have hugged terrain until now pitch up in a clean arc. They pass 5,000 feet like an elevator. Panels crack open under their bellies. Corner reflectors bloom. Cheap metal that makes a Sparrow look like a cruise weapon on radar. To the console, 4 gnats swell into fat threats. Bigger, faster, higher priority. Doctrine bites. The fire unit's logic drops the low lock and slews skyward. Rails bark. 57E6 tear out in brilliant lines. Decoys D in textbook bursts. Cheers ripple through headsets. The kill list looks neat. The reality is rotten. The radar's own power bathes the local sky in noise. The intercepts add shock and spark. For 30 seconds, the picture turns to gravel. Bloom. Smear. Holes. Wind chooses that instant. The mesh bows. A gap yawns behind the hydrotreater. Below the clutter, the true attackers receive a tight beam go. They slide under a catwalk. They blade through the opening and bite where it hurts. A manifold. A reactor wall. A live hydrogen line. 4 hits in a beat. Seals pop. Pressure hisses. Spark finds fuel. Fire takes the stage. Orange light writes on the sky for 2 hours. Pumps halt. Relief stacks wail. Operator crews sprint in silver suits. The unit goes down. Loading racks go quiet. Fleets that should move sit stranded. A slice of the Southern Front's fuel stream fades into smoke. The board resets. The plan does not. Next page, UFA. Distance makes it look impossible until you remember the relay ride's a hardened thread. Bashneft's sprawl sits beneath the Krasukha 4 blanket, a lighthouse of interference that drowns guidance and warps time. GPS staggers. Links twist. Anything that needs clean airwaves goes dull. Russia closes civilian skies above UFA. Runways go silent. Then the switch flips. The jamming hum rises like a storm caught in a transformer yard. Instinct says fight noise with noise. Ukraine goes soft instead. Decoys sag into the jam. They sell the wobble of a dying drone. A nearby battery takes the bait. The seeker hunts for a stable echo near the fake path. It finds the wrong one. A Russian surveillance quad drifting along the cone's edge. Blue hits blue in a hard white blink over a dark field. The jam washes back over Russian eyes. Orlan patrol birds blink, then go dumb. Linksti. Return to base routines grab control. For 45 seconds, the local sky has no watchman. No low-look radar at the right angle. No glass on the right seam. A small window. Enough. 10 true airframes creep in the weeds, trusting gyros and terrain matches. The relay brain, sitting on a narrow beam outside the storm, hands out lanes. Each lane ends at something fragile and central. LO-AVT-6, throughput in the millions of tons each year. Steel that makes crude useful, a gust tugs at the nets again. Fabric breathes. A seam lifts. The beavers do not hesitate. They punch for the mouth while the blind holds. Impact turns feed lines into burners. Smoke blows across runways at UFA International. Not fear, but physics closes the airport. Visibility drops to near zero. The plant becomes a torch. The city tastes oil on the wind. Automation cannot be the only answer. Russia throws a pilot at the problem. A Sukhoi prowls Saratov with a hunter's patience. Human eyes sort things machines often miss. Human pride creates its own weather. 6 tracks ahead do not fly like drones. They flex, they dip. Their wings ripple with biomimicry. Radar labels them clutter. Optics say maybe birds. The pilot wants certainty. He lights the cans and pulls hard for a look. The wake he leaves drags the air into knots. Look up radar hiccups in dirty air. For seconds, the ground picture freezes. The pilot, tugged wide by his quarry, leaves the roofline unguarded. A second swarm knifes in. Scaffold rattles. Net anchors pull. A primary distillation unit stands naked to the wind. The hit lands. Flash rolls along catwalks. Alarms pile on alarms. The pilot earns his missile kill on a decoy and quotes doctrine on the radio. Strategic math does not care. The unit burns. Morning finds gas lines. One fortress remains Kstovo. Tiers stacked tight. Tor M2 on the inner ring. Pantsir on the mid-belt. Nets over anything valuable. An Orlan Shepherd circles, a purpose-built kill box. 7 Ukrainian airframes point at a hydro-treating unit and fly straight into the teeth. They carry pods. Not flares, not smoke. Chaff. Metallic blossom that paints lies on screens. The Tor sees 7 swell to 70 in an instant. Threat logic buckles under a stampede of phantoms. The battery fires at the picture it has. Missiles bloom in empty air. Pantsir joins and finds a target. The wrong one. Orlan bright and fat in confusion. Blue on blue curves across the morning again. Chaos is the crack. The real attackers punch through their own glitter and climb. They clear the top of the nets and tuck down like hammers into L-24-300. Hydrogen meets heat. The biggest column of the night rides up like a black tree. Sirens settle into a long animal howl. The operators stop shouting. They start counting losses. Damage ripples outward faster than fire crews can move. Contracts miss delivery windows. Rail cars stack in yards. Frontline motor pools feel the lag first. Then logistics hubs. Then civilian pumps. Signals intelligence lights up as redeployments begin. Pantsir and S-400 batteries pull back from sectors that were quiet a day ago. They roll toward refineries because industry is oxygen and everyone knows it. The gaps appear as soon as the trailers move. Where umbrellas shrink, precision weapons breathe easier. Ukrainian artillery units find command posts that used to hide under a rug of missiles. Fuel barns that were safe last week become hot today. Ammunition dumps shift to night operations and still burn. A truck convoy takes a wrong road to dodge a crater and never finishes the detour. Maps change color one grid at a time. Behind every strike is the brain that threaded it. Not a face, not a rank. A stack of models trained on the enemy's habits. Hours and hours of jammer sweeps. Frequency ladders. Dwell times. The software learns the rhythm and steps just before the drum hits. When Krasukha hops, the link is already gone. When search radar paints, the profile already looks like rain. The swarm is present where the picture is blank. Cheap airframes inherit expensive foresight, and that is the asymmetric center of gravity. Back at Volgograd, the firefighters cool twisted pipe. A morning brief counts losses without adjectives, man-hours, units offline, days to repair, the number of flanges that need replacing. Insurance adjusters start their slow parade. On the other side of the border, a war room counts something else. Spare drones left, batteries charged, time windows when winds behave. The relay tracks constellation passes that give clean angles through thin clouds. Commercial satellites become unblinking witnesses and sometimes quiet helpers. FA's smoke keeps the airport closed beyond the threat window. Pilots sip coffee and stare at black plumes where nothing should burn. Controllers run out of euphemisms for delay. Local feeds warn residents to shut windows and stay inside. Hydrocarbon fog drifts across roads and settles on river water in rainbow sheens. Cleanup crews plan around heat, not politics. In Saratov, the pilot who speared a decoy still flew clean. He did his job by the book. The book never promised strategy. His wake masked an entry. His victory fed an explosion. He will be decorated for a tactical success. He will replay the tape at night and notice the gap where the refinery roofline vanished. Nothing about that loop is simple. Kstovo ends the night with the largest plume. The nets did their best. The layers worked until the picture fractured. The gap at the top of a complex shape proved the design limit. Weight and wind and geometry solved a problem that software merely pointed at. Maintenance crews will add ropes and braces. They will add sensors to watch the ropes. They will still fight gravity and gusts while an adversary fights in code. Economics enters the brief like weather. Refining capacity is not a number you fix with a speech. It is welders and gaskets and lead times for heat-resistant alloys. It is weeks of hot work under scaffolds and months waiting for custom towers. A war can spend rockets faster than a shop can bend pipe. That mismatch is its own weapon. Meanwhile, frontline units measure risk in road miles to a burning plant. Fuel planners shade maps by radius. Commanders look at a schedule for battery redeployment and see the other side of the coin, the hole they are about to leave behind. A launch crew that used to sleep under a strong umbrella now shuffles positions every night and never quite feels covered. Someone whispers the old line about riding a bicycle into a tank fight. It lands because it is sharp and unfair and a little true. The relay's last wave of the night rides an open-source link through commercial birds to avoid whatever noise remains. Targets are not random. They are weak seams and units built for continuous flow, not for shock. A flange here, a control cable there. Small pains that cascade into big outages. 15 pounds of explosive is not much against concrete. It is enough against an overpressured elbow in a hydrogen circuit. Firemen everywhere know the difference. The final timestamp writes itself at 0446 when the last airframe knifes into Kstovo's hydro-treating core. The column lifts. The glow sears clouds. Power crews stumble through rosters for the next 12 hours and draw a slow breath. Sirens lower. Radios quiet. The night is over in noise and not in calm. Inventory happens next. Numbers first, then blame, then plans. Inspections crawl across catwalks while weld pools cool. Rail schedules slip a day, then two. Export figures shift from confident to conditional. Spot markets twitch in distant cities that never learned how to pronounce UFA. A general signs an order and a missile battery leaves a trench for a highway. Somewhere, an adversary circles a time block on a wall calendar and writes, exploit. None of this is mystical. It is discipline married to adaptation. Cheap platforms steered by expensive thinking. An enemy that learns your habits and aims not at your shield, but at the hand that holds it. Every defense bought at great cost forces a trade somewhere else. Every trade opens a path. Strategy is not a shout. It is a sequence. By midday briefings, senior staffs talk in two columns, protection and pressure. Protection means hauling precious air defenses back to rings of steel around plants. Pressure means accepting softer fronts and betting that logistics pain on the other side buys time. Neither column is clean. Every truck that carries a launcher north is a truck that cannot carry shells east. Every radar that points at chimneys is a radar that no longer watches a river crossing. Maps with arrows blur into maps with circles, and circles do not win ground. Industry scrambles its own fixes. Nets get heavier. Gaps at the top get bridged with angled ribs. Thermal cameras sprout like mushrooms. Patrol drones fly stacked orbits, one high, one low, one sideways in synthetic aperture sweeps. Radio quiet hours are scheduled and then broken by emergencies. Human factors creep in. Shifts run long. Checklists get sloppy. Exhaustion is a weapon nobody claims, and it works on everyone equally. Ukraine iterates while the metal cools. Routing tables update. Terrain masks change as crews note which gullies kept signatures thin and which valleys reflected noise. Launch crews replace foam noses with tougher composites that survive crosswinds better near net lines. Corner reflectors get a slightly different angle set to mimic not just size, but the acceleration profile of heavier weapons. A failure diary catalogs every lost bird and tags the cause. Rotor icing, battery brownout, seeker mismatch, simple bad luck. Patterns emerge like faint tracks in frost. Analysts circle the ones that repeat and turn them into tasks. Public narratives try to catch up. One state report insists damage is minor and under control. A different ministry memo, leaked by lunch, lists outages by unit number and estimated days out. Residents post midnight videos of flames taller than offices. Comment sections argue about whether a glow over rails could be welders at night or something worse. Markets do not argue. They price delays with ruthless calm and move on. On the military nets, the chatter trims down to essentials. Convoys are told to plan extra fuel cushions and route through secondary depots if primary taps read shallow. Flight schedules juggle tanker availability. Field repairs cannibalize non-critical vehicles to keep critical ones mobile. Doctrine bends to reality and pretends it always looked like this on paper. Countermeasures rise on both sides. Russia experiments with layered decoys of its own. Inflatables warmed to fool infrared and wired with small radar enhancers to draw early strikes. Some work, some melt. Ukraine answers by dropping timed chaff curtains over false targets, making the wrong things look right at the right moment. Electronic warfare crews on both sides learn the other's accents in the spectrum and develop a hunter's ear for when a familiar voice tries a new trick. Weather writes its own chapter. Autumn winds that helped sway nets one night turn into cross gusts that scatter approach lanes the next. Crews talk about wind the way sailors do. They read smoke columns and tree lines. They shift tea times by minutes to catch calmer air in the narrow slots between squalls. Low cloud helps hide silhouettes and hurts optical confirmation. Fog ruins the best camera and rescues the worst guard shift. No plan survives dew on a lens. In the background, procurement races logistics. Factories that stamp frames in batches of 50 stretch to hundreds. Battery suppliers get rushed orders and beg for graphite and separators. Small machine shops start cutting titanium brackets for reflector mounts at night. Insulation vendors become strangely strategic. Everyone learns the names of alloys they never cared about before. Security culture mutates under pressure. Operators who once posted selfies with launch rails learn to leave phones outside the fence. Briefers strip details down to verbs and times and trust encrypted threads for the rest. Rumor still leaks because people leak and because fear wants company. Yet the core stays quiet enough for the relay to keep breathing. Across borders, analysts in distant capitals draw lines on slides. They argue about thresholds. They warn about escalation ladders and signal discipline. They also take notes. Cheap precision scares every large power that ever built its plans on cost curves and air defenses. The lesson travels faster than any individual platform can. At field level, soldiers measure the night differently. They remember the one gas station that still had diesel and the grandmother who waved them to the shorter queue. They remember the odd hush when the sky went weird and the way the dogs in a refinery town stopped barking all at once. They tell each other the plume looked alive. They keep that to themselves on official forms. Engineers put numbers to what memory feels. Pressure transients recorded at the instant of impact. Thermocouple curves that stayed spiked for hours. Valve positions frozen by heat. Every data point gets a tag and a place in a model. Next time, a controller somewhere will see a similar curve and shut something 30 seconds sooner. 30 seconds will matter. By evening, the immediate fires are down, but hotspots flare like stubborn arguments. Cameras watch for reignition. Guards pull longer posts around power yards. Ambulances idle near gates because heat leaves damage that hides for a while. The night crew clocks in, glances at the blackened skyline, and tightens gloves. Work begins where pride ends. None of this ends the war. It changes the slope. It moves pressure from the obvious to the overlooked. It trades tonnage for timing and puts stress where supply chains bend instead of where headlines point. It is patient, iterative, and hard to stop once it learns your tempo. That is why it matters. The lesson is blunt. Do not underrate an opponent who can weld low-cost airframes to smart code and turn them into leverage against mass. So here is the question. If you sat in the Russian chair tonight, what moves first? Do you strip more air defenses from the line and risk a gap? Or do you gamble and leave refineries exposed to the next wave? Lay out your commander's plan in the comments. Keep it concrete. Keep it real.